Hello, everyone. Welcome to Authority Architects. Today, we have Felicia Pizzonia, CEO of Ultimate Publishing House, best-selling author of multiple books, and a sales and mind conditioning coach. Thanks so much for joining us, Felicia.
Thanks for having me, Michael and Stephen. It's awesome to be here.
Piggybacking on the backgrounds that I just shared, your background details, I'd love to dive into some of those different aspects of your career, Felicia. So you've built a really interesting career, and I know that a part of that is authorship, being an author yourself, helping other people realize their dreams of writing their own books. Can you just talk a little bit about who you are in that regard, that aspect of your career, and what you do for folks in that area?
So one of the things is I realized at a very young age, it was around age 20, that the only way, one of the ways to succeed in business would be to stand out from the crowd. And so to do that, you would have to have a unique way to market and brand yourself. So what better way than to have a published book, and better yet, a best-selling book, and create multiple streams of income stemming from the book. So I realized that that the traditional publishing was somewhat antiquated, hence the birth of the Ultimate Publishing House. And so it's been 2 decades now where we take traditional publishing, infuse it with branding, publicity, and marketing, ghostwriter, everything you need from A to Z. And one of our many superpowers as a team here of over 50 people would be the creative aspect. We're really good at coming up with the branding and the marketing and making it, I believe it's at the risk of sounding philosophical, it's a God-given talent. Yes, we're precise and we use metrics and so forth. So it's not, woo-woo and guessing or guesstimating. It's a combination of the two. And that's why I feel that we're one of the best at what we do, hence being around for, well over 2 decades now.
And who are your typical clients in that regard? Like, who are these entrepreneurs? Are they founders? Are they celebrities? Like, is it all the above?
Yes. So it would be, an ideal client would be anyone that's looking to, I could give you my business card, or you could scan my QR card, or I could say, hey, by the way, here's my published book. And it's like, wow, perceptions, people's reality. 95% of sales is based on psychology. So when I give you my published book rather than my business card, you're like, wow, that's instant prestige, credibility, visibility, distinction, and it positions you as the authority in your field.
That's so cool. Now, could you tell us a little bit about who some of your audience is? For you, you're helping people's dreams of writing a book come true, but who are those people? Who's the typical person, and how do you get those clients from yourself, your own marketing perspective? What does that look like?
One of the key things is that the person, let's say the avatar, if you will, the author has to be somewhat of a up-and-comer, somewhat established, and looking to, take their business or practice to the next level through the power of a published book. So they have a great story to share in terms of their personal brand, but also their business or practice brand. So let's call it a medium-sized enterprise or a practice, typically doctors that are into integrative medicine, or something that's different and stands out from the crowd, whether it's, realtors that invest quite a bit of money in branding and marketing. So I hope that answers your question.
So moving on to a different question. So you've talked to us in the past about your mind candy framework. I know that we've talked about that in some of our previous conversations. Can you just explain what that is, how you came up with that, and how it applies to the work that you do with authors and in the marketing field in general?
Certainly. So what happened was, I think it was back in 2007 or 8, around that time, probably the end of 2007, there was a hit movie documentary called The Secret. So I'm watching this movie. It was a $5 download. And in this movie were some of the greatest personal development teachers in the world. And one of them was Bob Proctor. And I thought, wow, I really love this guy. Like, I just love the way he explains the power of the mind and what you think you become. And all of a sudden, I discover literally 3 months later that he actually lives up the street from me, because I do have a home in Toronto and I also have a home in New York. And they said, well, Felicia, why don't you come and meet Bob? And I'm like, I thought he was American. And they're like, no, he's Canadian. He lives up the street from you, like half a mile. And I said, my God, this is incredible. And so I met up with Bob and we continued to talk about the power of the mind and Think and Grow Rich. And so now we fast forward to 2018. And I wrote a bunch of books from that time till then. And Bob is actually one of my partners in the book publishing house. I mean, he did pass away a couple years ago, but he was my partner for the last, let's say, decade and a half, along with Dr. John DeMartini and a bunch of others. So to come back full circle, I realized we think in images, and all images must come into form. So we call that eye candy when there's something aesthetically pleasing.
Well, and I can certainly relate to that because obviously we run a video marketing agency, so we deal with images all day long. And so thinking in terms of images and how people picture things and how they perceive things can definitely apply to that type of framework. So how then do you apply the kind of mind candy framework when you're thinking about a book specifically? Like how does that come into play or come into focus?
So if you have the desire to do anything, so let's focus on a book. So you have the desire to write and publish a book. It is actually your duty to do so because you have that desire. And when you put it out there and you write it down on a piece of paper, preferably with a pencil, what your goal is. I'm so happy and grateful now that I've published a book by, let's say, December 1st, 2025. That now goes out into the universe and summons everything and everyone you need to accomplish that goal. And so there's really no coincidences in life. And so that's the first step, knowing that you have the desire. The second step would be to come up with maybe a title, a working title, what it is that you want the book to do for you. That would be the question to answer. What is it that I want the book to do for me? And how may I serve? How am I contributing to that target market? Because, the book is a beautiful thing that will be here even when we leave the earth. It's a beautiful tool that would educate and inspire readers for centuries to come, just like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill or Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles.
That's so true. The physical manifestation is such a cool aspect of it for sure. I want to move Felicia to your experience as a coach and as a speaker, that area of your career. Obviously, this podcast is primarily for folks in marketing, folks in brand building. What would you say has been a contributing factor to you getting the speaking engagements and really establishing yourself as an authority? I would imagine the authorship and the book writing is obviously a key piece of that, but are there any other tips or bits of wisdom that our audience might be able to extract about if they want to be in those presentation chairs or on those stages?
I would say you want to practice delicious words, so expand your vocabulary. It's very important to speak eloquently and be articulate, but also be real, because you can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time, as Bob Marley said in various lyrics of his music. So it's important to leave the persona at the door. Just be real, because people will feel the vibe, and that's one of the keys, is speaking articulately, which I can't even do right now, articulately, and being genuine, enthusiastic, cool and calm. And so that is the key, just keep it real. And it's also important to take care of your outer, the vessel that carries you, because your posture and your body, it tells the world who you are, and it commands respect. When you walk into a room and you're fit, there's a subconscious thing that's going on where people are like, wow, because when you're fit and you're healthy, it shows that you have discipline, and discipline is the ability to follow your own command. And so that's one of the keys, is speaking, speaking delicious words, being authenticity, and just exuding that energy of health and vitality.
Yeah. And authenticity is something we talk about a lot on our podcast.
Yes.
That's why podcasts are such an exciting format. So, getting back to the book writing side of things, what would you say is something that helps people bring out their most authentic voice?
I would say actually just reflecting, because what's interesting is I can edify you, and you edify me, but I can't edify myself. This is what's very interesting. So when we go through the process of publishing a book and extract and ask you certain questions, like, what is your primary objective, Stephen and Michael? What is it that you want the book to do for you? You suddenly realize that there were certain catalysts to you becoming who you are, right? As an example, Dr. John DeMartini, he was dyslexic, had a speech impediment, had trouble walking, had braces. He was told that he wouldn't amount to anything. Today, he's one of the greatest teachers in the world in human behavior, and was also featured in the movie The Secret. And he's a great friend and partner in the publishing house as well. So what he realized is that what we think is a great disadvantage is actually one of the greatest gifts and benefits and massive stepping stones to becoming who we are, whether it's in business or any aspect of life. So when you share that in your story or in your book as one of the chapters or something infused in there, which we will help you create, the end reader realizes, wow, like Stephen or Michael or Dr. DeMartini went through this, and that inspires them to understand that some of the trials and tribulations they have gone through doesn't mean, it's over. You can utilize that to your benefit and you continue on. So it just gives you that little nudge or that gem or many gems. So it's really a beautiful thing. It's really incredible.
Yeah, that's super cool. Felicia, looking back on your own career, what would you say has been the most powerful mindset shift you've made to kind of furthering your goals and achieving your goals?
Well, one of my mindset shifts was at an early age. I remember vividly Bob Proctor and I and a bunch of others were in Vegas doing a seminar on publishing, and we're walking down a hotel, and there was an army of women. And that was the birth of Babes in Business Suits, my first book. And what is a babe? Beauty from within, intellect, perseverance, imagination. And I realized that everything can be turned into an incredible idea, but the key is implementation. So nothing is impossible. Nothing's impossible. If you have the desire, it's actually your duty to implement, execute, take it to the bank. But before taking it to the bank, the key is to serve humanity, to serve and offer a fair exchange. What better way to serve than to offer, let's say, a $30 book to millions of people, and in exchange, they get priceless information. So my mindset shift was the fact that anything's possible. If you have the desire, you can do it. And there's no problems. There could be maybe a challenge, but there's always a solution to anything. So you have to have that attitude. As Jim Rohn says, you're either a whiner or a winner. So you choose.
I love that.
Yeah, so true. We tend to say that a lot too. Different words, but same idea.
What would you tell, Felicia, emerging leaders who want to build their influence through publishing? Like, obviously there's a lot of places to spend your dollars as you're trying to establish your brand. There's a lot of things that you could do digitally, speaking engagements. What would you tell them is the most powerful aspect of publishing and book writing, and why that should be a focus?
The most powerful, well, there's several powerful aspects to publishing a book. And that would be number one, having a good publisher. Self-publishing is a little challenging, so you definitely want to have a good publisher of record, like Ultimate Publishing House. And you would have to understand that publishing a softcover or hardcover book needs to be accompanied by an ebook and also an audiobook. That way you have all vehicles covered and options. And the beauty of this published book is that you're able to stand out from the crowd. It helps you get other speaking engagements in different industries as a published author. You have back of the room sales. And it's also the key to establish multiple streams of income. So you could have merchandise stemming from the book, a companion journal, a home study course. The list goes on. And the beauty of it is that it's almost sacrilegious, if you will, to throw away a book. So the book's there, marketing and branding you for life. It's really an incredible thing. And the book can very well go viral with the proper publicity and marketing and proper intellectual property, such as a title and so forth. So it's the potential of having residual income from your book sales is very high.
I know, when we were initially talking about all these different marketing things and the aspects of writing the book, I think when I tend to be more reserved about some of our accomplishments, but I think that that's a good thing in a lot of areas. But what would you tell people who, like us, might be, who would listen to, who would listen to our thoughts, or like why, what is unique about our perspective? How is this going to go viral if no one really knows that much about us? Like, how do you overcome that as an objection and get people really motivated to want to do this?
Awesome question. And I said that from day one. Both you and Michael are super humble and just easygoing guys, very likable. And that's great. One of the keys to success is, you don't want to be too arrogant and you don't want to be too humble, because the universe will teach you a lesson to put you in an equilibrated state. So the key is to have confident humility, shut the noise out, shut all the, stuff that we were told from school or from our parents or from society that you got to be humble or you got to lay low. And it's okay to have confident humility and to own what you've created and accomplished and be proud. So that's what we would help you do as publishers, is extract that and say, hey, Stephen and Michael, this is what you guys done. You guys are Emmy Award winning film creators and podcast creators. Let's put that in the book. Let's talk about how did you achieve that? And in the end, it boosts your self-esteem and makes you realize that it's okay to share your accomplishments. It's actually not arrogant. It's a beautiful thing. It all depends on the delivery, right? And at the end of the day, people that respect and understand who you are appreciate that, and that motivates and gives permission to others to do the same. So it's a full circle win-win scenario. That's why it's in perfect harmony with integrity.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Well, Felicia, is there any kind of final thoughts or words of advice or wisdom that you want to share before we adjourn today?
Adjourn. I love that word. Well, before we adjourn, I would say a nugget of wisdom would be that, Earl Nightingale, someone that I love from back in the 60s, I believe. He had, Bob Proctor actually worked with him in Chicago. But Earl Nightingale had something called the Acres of Diamonds. And that you have to understand that you're here for a limited time. Enjoy your holiday on Earth. And when you flash forward to being 90, let's say, if God willing we live to be 90, none of it mattered. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So you have to have the courage to do what's right for you and for your business. And so if you really want to publish a book, just get it done, because the days go by, time passes, you're going to buy consumables and depreciables. So take your money, invest it in a appreciative asset, such as publishing your book or book series, and just get it done. It's the greatest way to live, and the only way to live, in my humble opinion.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciated it. This was really interesting and insightful.
Thank you for having me, guys. Really appreciate everything you're doing, and hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you.